The situation surrounding Prince Harry and Meghan Markle has once again drawn global attention, with increasing discussion about their role, influence, and relationship with the British royal family. Over the past few years, their decisions, especially stepping back from royal duties, have already created tension. Now, with fresh reports and renewed public debate, the spotlight is back on them in a much more serious way. It all begins with how they are perceived, particularly in the media and entertainment world. Some commentators have questioned whether their popularity, especially in the United States, is strongly tied to their royal connection. The idea is that without that link, their projects might not receive the same level of attention. While this remains a matter of opinion, it has contributed to ongoing criticism and discussion about their public image. At the same time, reports suggest that tensions within the royal family have not fully settled. Prince William, in particular, is often described as being deeply concerned about protecting the long-term reputation of the monarchy. From his perspective, the institution must remain stable, trusted, and respected. According to various sources, he believes that certain actions in recent years may have challenged that stability, which has only increased his frustration. This growing tension is not just about personal disagreements anymore. It is now being framed as something larger, something that affects the structure and credibility of the monarchy itself. For a family that represents centuries of tradition, even small issues can become significant if they impact public trust. The situation became more serious when discussions began around a routine financial review within the royal household. Every year, financial records are checked carefully to ensure transparency and accountability. These audits are normally straightforward and rarely attract attention. However, in this case, something reportedly stood out. An experienced member of the royal finance team noticed irregular patterns while reviewing records from the time when Harry and Meghan were still working royals. At first, these details may have seemed minor or explainable, but as the review continued, questions began to emerge. Certain dates, payments, and records did not seem to match expected patterns. This led to a deeper look into the data. Officials reportedly began comparing financial transactions with publicly known royal events. The goal was simple: to ensure that everything aligned properly. However, as more comparisons were made, some unusual overlaps appeared. These overlaps raised concerns, not conclusions, but concerns, that needed further investigation. It is important to note that at this stage, no official findings were publicly confirmed. Instead, what existed was a growing need to understand whether these irregularities were simple administrative issues or something more complex. In any large organization, especially one as old and detailed as the royal institution, such questions must be handled carefully. This is where Princess Anne reportedly became more directly involved. Known for her strong sense of duty and discipline, she is often seen as one of the most focused and hardworking members of the royal family. Her approach tends to be practical and firm, especially when it comes to protecting the integrity of the crown. Under her guidance, the review process became more detailed and structured. Additional records were examined, timelines were reviewed more closely, and different departments were asked to provide supporting information. The focus remained on facts and documentation rather than speculation. At the same time, the internal atmosphere reportedly became more serious. When an issue moves from routine review to deeper investigation, it naturally raises the level of attention and caution. Senior advisors and officials would want to ensure that every step is handled properly and fairly. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic, Prince Harry was said to be facing a difficult situation. During his time as a working royal, he had signed certain official documents as part of his role. This is normal for senior members of the royal family who carry out duties on behalf of the crown. However, if any legal or financial questions arise later, those signatures can sometimes place responsibility on the person who signed them. Because of this, some reports suggest that Harry may have felt increasing pressure as the situation developed. Even if he was not directly involved in certain decisions, the legal structure could still connect him to them. This created uncertainty and stress, especially as the situation continued to evolve. At the same time, Meghan Markle remained largely quiet in public. Her representatives offered limited responses, focusing on general statements rather than detailed explanations. This silence added to public curiosity, as people often try to interpret what a lack of comment might mean. However, without official statements, it remains speculation. Back in the United Kingdom, senior members of the royal family maintained a calm but firm approach. King Charles, as the monarch, is responsible for ensuring that the institution continues to function with integrity. His focus, according to reports, has been on maintaining stability and public confidence. Prince William, as the future king, is also seen as playing a key role. His approach is often described as measured and focused on long-term outcomes rather than short-term reactions. For him, the priority is not personal emotion but the protection of the monarchy as an institution. Together, this creates a unified front within the senior royal leadership. Their message, whether spoken publicly or privately, is centered on accountability, transparency, and trust. These are the values that the monarchy depends on to maintain its position in modern society. As the investigation process continued, more records were reportedly reviewed. Financial documents, communication logs, and event timelines were all examined in an effort to build a complete picture. This kind of work takes time and requires careful attention to detail. Rushing to conclusions could lead to mistakes, which is why such processes are usually slow and methodical. At the same time, comparisons have been made to past royal controversies. However, many observers note that each situation is different. Some past issues were largely about public perception or media narratives. This situation, by contrast, is being discussed in terms of structure, procedure, and internal systems. That difference is important because it changes how the issue is handled. Public relations challenges can often be managed through communication strategies. Structural concerns, however, require detailed review, documentation, and sometimes policy changes. As public interest grows, media coverage continues to expand. Different outlets present different interpretations, and not all of them agree. This can make it difficult for the public to know exactly what is true and what is still unverified. That is why official statements and confirmed findings are so important. For now, the key point is that the process is ongoing. No final conclusions have been officially announced, and no definitive outcomes have been confirmed. What exists is a situation under review with multiple perspectives and many unanswered questions. For viewers and observers, this creates a sense of suspense. People are watching closely to see what will happen next. Will the investigation lead to clear answers? Will it result in changes within the royal system, or will it eventually fade without major consequences? At the personal level, the situation also raises questions about relationships within the royal family. Situations like this can either deepen those divides or eventually lead to some form of resolution. For Prince Harry, the situation is especially complex. He is no longer a working royal, yet his past role still connects him to the... Balancing his personal life, public image, and any potential responsibilities is not an easy task. For Meghan Markle, public perception remains a major factor. Supporters and critics both have strong opinions, and those opinions continue to shape how the story is discussed. Without detailed public responses, much of the conversation remains based on interpretation rather than confirmed information. As the story develops, one thing remains clear. It is part of a larger narrative about how the monarchy adapts to modern expectations, manages internal challenges, and maintains public trust in a rapidly changing world. The coming weeks and months will likely bring more clarity. Official updates, if released, will play a crucial role in shaping the final understanding of this situation. Until then, the focus remains on careful review, responsible reporting, and avoiding premature conclusions. It is about an institution that has existed for generations and continues to evolve. How it responds to challenges like this will influence not only its present, but also its future. And that is why the world continues to watch, waiting for answers, watching for decisions, and wondering what comes next.